And we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Life Matters podcast. And I just want you to know that you guys have the privilege of getting to sit and chat with me and my girl, Leanne. Like, this is my heart, right? She's wearing purple because she's my purple heart. Look, Leanne is everything. All the way from another country. She is my everything. Listen, everything. She is my go-to when it comes to all the aches and pains I got going on with this body of mine. Leanne, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me all the way from across the pond here in the UK. It's lovely to join you. I know.
Okay, so tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your specialty on the Jess.
So my full name is Leanne Antoine. I am a qualified chartered physiotherapist, or physical therapist, as you guys call it over there in the States. I look after people's bodies, primarily those people who've got aches, pains, had surgery, incidents, accidents, and I just help people to get back to their previous level of function. That's ultimately what my main role is. But alongside all of that, I'm a public speaker. I speak at schools, corporates, mainly around motivation, inspiration, trying to help people to evaluate where they're at in their lives and how they want to move forward with things, which I guess is a challenge for so many of us, especially post-pandemic, evaluating where we're at right now and what we think we want to do with our lives. And I'm a voiceover artist, so I use my voice on adverts, commercials, intranet-based portals. So I'm that person that says, move to the right and click here. I'm that person. So I do a lot of stuff. I have my finger in a lot of pies. I'm also one of 12 council members, or will be, for the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. I'll take my position in December, which is a really exciting time because it's helping to increase representation, I think, of Black people within physiotherapy. The Chartered Society has 62,000 members and just over 1,100 of those are Black. So we only make up 1.7% of a very well-recognised profession over here in the UK. So I'm trying to move some of my mountains over here in my corner of my earth. That's me.
That's you in a nutshell. Oh my God, yeah, you're doing a whole lot. And then just speaking of the body, like that's the topic of today's show, like really taking time to pay attention to your body and listen to your body, not because, it's just like, oh, I need to work out and get fit so that I can, have my summer body ready and all that other stuff, but really paying attention and doing what's necessary for your body as an act of self-love and self-care for your future self. Like a lot of people don't realize, like I'm going to tell you right now, you know how people say the 40 is the new 30 and the 30 is the new 20 and all that. I'm telling you, I'll be 40 in 2 months and my 40 feels like I'm 40. Like I don't care what you say. I want a nap at 12 o'clock. Midnight is the new 9 p.m. for me. I don't care what nobody says. And it's because our bodies, like my, but like, I've had like multiple surgeries and all that other stuff. So caring for my body is imperative. But how often do you see people not necessarily taking care of their whole body and just putting it aside for later?
There's so much that I could say about that in itself. So, you're drawing on a few pointers. And so firstly, we've got, there's a saying, and it's an anonymous quote, actually. Listen to your body whilst it whispers so you never have to hear it scream. And I think most of us get subtle warnings from our body, but we ignore them. And for those of us that don't ignore them, we all think that they're going to get better. Oh, it will be fine. I'm just going to leave it another week, another few days. It will be fine. It's another year. I have people sometimes here in my clinic that will sit down and say to me, do you know, I think on reflection, I've had this for about 18 months. And I say, and you've done nothing about it? And they'll say, no, I thought it would get better. And then I rested it. And then I tried to play tennis or go to the gym and it came back again. And they're not resting it. Essentially what they're doing is they're avoiding it. They're not resting it at all. There's a lot of work by Eckhart Tolle who kind of talks about the fact that we don't spend enough money on preventative health measures, that we are only spending our money when we're at the point of clutching at straws. You know, the number of people that will potentially reach out for some kind of intervention and not even ask about the cost, because the cost becomes irrelevant when you're in absolute agony. You'll pay whatever it takes to feel better, to get over the problem. And at that point, it's already quite bad. I think Ayurvedic medicine talks about when you're already displaying a symptom, that's already chronic. That's you displaying something, painfully outward or inwardly, but it's already been building up. So there's that. I think there's also society's perspective about people being in pain and getting over it. We have a very instant access way of living. And with that, if I just pop a pill, I should be fine. If I just take that ibuprofen, that paracetamol, that Nurofen, whatever it is, I'll just take that and I'll be fine. So we almost leave no space to be unwell. And we certainly don't leave very much space for the recovery. I think there are a lot of people post-pandemic who felt, oh, when we come out of the pandemic, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to rest more, sleep more, I'm not going to go back into the same level of busy that I was in before, and it's lies, it's BS. People have gone back, some people have ramped up the gear, for some people it's more busy. I would say I'm busier in terms of what I'm doing now myself. I do think that that's had its own impact on my own health. And I'm constantly having to check myself in the way I'm checking my patients. But I also think that it's, it's the people that are around you as well who sort of say, well, you've mentioned that last week. You said that was sore last week and you still haven't done anything about it. And I think if you're hanging around with a decent circle, your friends won't leave you just saying that you've constantly got pain or discomfort. They will say to you, well, have you been to your GP? Did you go to urgent care? Over here, we have a system that's, the NHS is free at the point of contact for which is our National Health Service, but we are paying for it in terms of our taxes. But because of the pandemic, we've got massive backlogs. So even for myself in private care, working privately with patients, I know that some people wouldn't ordinarily come to see me, but they are, because the services that they could normally get their hands on, it's not accessible to them at the moment. There are waiting lists longer than the length of your body from head to toe, and people just cannot wait. They want to crack on. So that makes my service quite busy. In some ways, it makes me feel like those people are paying attention to their bodies and they're seeking out the help that they need. But in the same breath, it also makes me think about the length of time some of those people have been waiting before they then come to me. And for some people, it's a long time. I'm looking at some people who have had surgeries 6, 7, 8 months ago and haven't had any physiotherapy follow-up. Like, that's not doing very well. That's not had a very successful outcome because you couldn't have treatment, and that's not great. So,
right. And I always tell people, when it comes to, self-love, a lot of people think that it's just, spoiling yourself or caring about your mental health and caring about your emotional health. But in no way, shape, or form do they consider the body, right? What, how you care for it, right? Making sure that you see a nutritionist or a dietitian.
Or a dental hygienist.
Yes, right. Or people or say, well, I just, I stopped eating fried food. You know what I mean? But, and like you said, just refusing to acknowledge or letting a whole bunch of time go by and not saying, let me pay attention to this back pain or let me pay attention to this neck pain, right? And they'll be quick to pay whatever they need to pay, to make it go away for now, really fast so that they can be on their way to the next thing. But they don't consider, what, if I don't fix this now, it's going to hurt later. And I always say, you really can take care and love yourself completely, even in your old age, by what you do at this moment in your younger years. Because how often do you see people who will say, you know what, this has been hurting for over a decade.
Mm.
And because they weren't caring for themselves or doing what they were supposed to be doing, or even having it looked at, right? Now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they have completely changed their entire way of living because they didn't address something. And now there's no going back. They've damaged a part of their body that can't be fixed in the way it could have been fixed had they cared for themselves, years and years and years ago.
I think that, and this is obviously just, I say in my humble opinion,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the way society is like today, Instagram is filled with beautiful bodies,
Mm-hmm.
women that are posing from the side, the booty looks cute, the pouty lips,
Yeah,
the skin is flawless, nobody's ever aging. This is what we see, right? And
right.
this is what we see on a day-to-day basis, even for those of us that are scrolling through our phones, just
Awesome.
looking through. There's a
Yeah.
seed being sown about looking perfect and constantly beautiful. And then what it has us as a society is focusing on the things that we feel aren't so great about our bodies. So the weight that you think you carry a bit too much around your tummy, the fact that your thighs are thick, maybe you're thick fit and you want to be slimmer, maybe you don't like your skin, maybe you've got acne, maybe your eyebrows don't
Cellulite,
look on
stretch
point.
marks.
Yeah, all of it, right?
Oh,
All of that. So externally, we're not loving on ourselves because society then because we don't feel like we're as perfect as society
yeah,
wants us to be.
yeah,
And so you're then focusing on that. Like lots of people are focusing on that. When you've spoken about self-care and self-love, to get your nails done or to get your hair done or whatever, seem like there's so much more priorities in investing in physiotherapy or dental hygiene or whatever it is.
mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you've then got the fact that it's the whole thing, this investing, maybe when you're 20, for the goodness of you when you're 40. We live fast. So our 20-year-olds aren't thinking about being 40. And this is not just about our bodies, it's also about financial fitness.
Yeah.
I could buy my property because I'd saved when I was 18, and when it came for me to buy it in my early 20s, I could do it because
Mm-hmm.
I had the money.
Yeah.
Most of us have struggled and still struggle to recognize that you need to be putting in that constant investment and you need to be doing it early. And I think that when people really check themselves, when you directly check yourself, those people who are investing in their physio, those people who are investing in their financial fitness, they'll be doing all of the things. They're rarely missing out stuff. Those
Mm-hmm.
are doing the superficial things. They're not necessarily doing the deep work, because the deep work is hard. Saving to buy a home, saving to buy a car, putting money aside for a pension who told me that I'm going to get to 65 or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
investing. Those things are long-term gain, but that's hard work when you're feeling like you're not earning that much money. The money to spend on physiotherapy might feel like it's a lot of money when really you're going out for fireworks night, Halloween, Christmas, and there's a dress that you really want, and weighing up the cost of that uh, physio appointment versus your handbag that you want or the meal that you're going to go for.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of
Yeah.
things in your mind,
Yeah.
until you start exploring and doing and recognizing the return on your investment. Like you cannot invest greater than investing in your own body, in my mind. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why should I need to explain that to you? Do you know what I mean? To the patients, to the public? Like, what is it about the society, about our society, that hasn't made us put ourselves first? That we've got so much more value to materialistic things that can constantly be replaced.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. I mean, I really think about it. Like sometimes, because people will say, well, eating healthy is expensive, you know, and you know, doing all this other stuff, that's expensive. Good skincare products,
Yeah,
that's
it's expensive. Yeah,
expensive, and
yeah,
all the other jazz, right? And let me tell you something. The best thing about the one thing that I love is that my skincare is expensive,
yeah,
right? But I look good after I
yeah.
take makeup off. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, 100%.
sure, I'll wear makeup, right? But my skin looks so good and I don't need a filter. Filter, yeah, they're fun.
Yeah,
Makeup, yeah, it's
yeah,
fun to enhance all that jazz. However, but my skin, I take
yeah,
so much good care of it. From the inside out. If
yeah,
I'm willing to spend 100, 200 on a meal, that's an experience, that's great. Then
yeah,
I should have no problem spending that same amount,
yeah,
100 to $200,
yeah,
right? On feeding the organs
yeah.
that keep me moving and
Every
keep
day.
going
Yeah,
every single day. Because let me tell you something, and look, if in my 30s, I think because I'll be 40 soon, in my early 30s, like 30, 31, that's when I really said, you know what? I'm going to really focus on the amount of water I drink because I'm really
yeah,
big on it's like skin, hair, and nails. And I know water is
yeah,
everything when it comes to that. But I said, I'm going to work out. I want to get fit. And that was around the time I also, for the first time, I saw a nutritionist, right? And it let me know what all my levels were, right? What
yeah,
I should be eating more of, what I shouldn't be eating at all. You know, what causes inflammation? Because even now, I didn't recognize until, you know, after my surgeries and stuff like that. And you've seen a lot of like my MRI
yeah,
results and stuff
right,
like that.
yeah,
Just having like the inflammation and herniated discs and all that causes back spasms and back pain and things like that. Literally, instead of popping pills all the time, it is, let me eat some more turmeric.
yeah,
Let me stay away from all this dairy. Like, let me find out what's causing a lot of this inflammation. And it's the inflammation that's causing me pain. So, just the getting my blood circulating and getting it going and seeing a physical therapist and getting my body back into the shape that it needs to be, make some subtle changes. And does it cost? Absolutely. However, it costs more to be popping opioids.
yeah,
Tell you something, it
100%.
costs more to be, but all in pain meds that
Yeah,
you have to take. And the crazy thing is, they wear off.
yeah.
So you have to take it every
It's all
4 to
that.
6 hours.
Yeah,
You are fucking up
yeah,
the inside of your body
yeah,
just because you don't want to spend the money to change your diet.
yeah.
And
Oh
then
my
you're gonna be old.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. My grandmother was an orthopedic nurse, and she used to
Mhm.
say, you know, Leanne, they give you this tablet, and this tablet has side effects. So then they have to give you this tablet, and this one has side effects. Then they've
Exactly.
got to give you this tablet. So you're taking one tablet for something, but that's got a side effect for something else. They've got to give you another tablet to combat the side effects of, and after a while, I think the body, it's like powering up a computer.
Mhm.
The computer's brand new. It starts up really quickly. It doesn't have loads of stuff going on it.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is the body. The new nervous system. It's being built. It's slowly picking things up. Now, when you start throwing in the opioids, now when you start throwing in pain, injury, emotional, physical traumas, etc.,
Yeah.
this boot of this computer is really slow, and it's starting to say, it's like, oh, I'm a bit confused here for some people. So this might be my fibromyalgia patient, for example, pain all over my body.
Mhm.
You can't understand what it's saying. It might have a really bad response to an extremely normal stimuli that's called allodynia. And with all of this, you're thinking, right, where's the glitch? And my job as a physio is to kind of look at, where is that glitch? Have you had a traumatic incident that's happened to your body and your body hasn't recovered? Can we help it to recover? If we can't, can we educate you about that? But
Mhm.
I constantly do educational marketing on my social media platforms, which is about encouraging people to come quickly. Don't
Mhm.
wait to see somebody for your pain and your discomfort. And I understand that years ago, things like physiotherapy were much more about, they were luxury. you wanted them, not needed them. I think that we recognize as our world is changing in terms of people trying to be fitter, stronger, girls are lifting heavier, guys want to look fit all the time, nobody wants to be fluffy. You're gonna get injured in these situations. Nobody wants to look fluffy, it's true. So people are lifting all year round.
Yeah.
You're gonna get injured at some point, particularly if you don't take relative breaks. There's no point in getting one little niggle, because if you're lifting 200, let's say, kg on a deadlift, and you have a niggle, when you go to lift that 200 kg at the end of the week, there's no way that you're not going to feel that. You can't.
You can feel it.
You can feel it, right? So yeah, I just think we need to, in the way that we've evolved in terms of, there's so many more people being vegan, so many more people training. We still have large populations of people that will still be impacted by certain diseases, etc. We must get better at knowing what we need. And that's why there's so many more nutritionists than I ever remember. There's access to this information without you having to Google or wiki it, because that's the other thing as well. Google hasn't read your medical notes. Google doesn't know you. Wiki doesn't know you. So when you go to see someone and you see somebody who's good, you're expecting them to get to know you, to understand your story, your journey, so that the help that you're seeking is well worth your money.
Right.
And I also think, the thing about healthy eating being expensive, it really comes out the fact that people want to do the healthy eating whilst they still buy the crap. And that's why it's expensive. They don't want to do a complete shift.
Yeah.
It still goes up. If you think you still want to buy crisps, sweets, biscuits, chocolate and whatever, but then you're going to say you're going to buy chickpeas, hummus, grains and whatever. If you don't remove some of the crap and you're trying to add the healthy, you've added to. You haven't swapped out for. And of course, that bill then ends up becoming quite expensive.
That's a good way to think it. You're just adding. You're not swapping one for the other. You're just adding some goodness to your shitty diet. And so I think that's really good. Like, so how people go, complete vegetarian, or there's the vegan thing that's really important. I know so many people who are like, well, I changed my diet and I'm a vegetarian now and I'm vegan, but they still don't go to the doctor. They still don't work out. They still don't do, you know what I mean? They don't
overweight. They're still overweight. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because when because I haven't eaten meat now for maybe just over 4 years. And you think for like the first 30 years or something of my life, I was eating meat. My body knew meat. And whatever the meat was giving me, in terms of protein and B12, I was getting that from the meat without having to think about it. And when I gave up the meat, I was having some terrible tummy cramps, but they didn't come on until about 8 or 9 months down the line.
Okay.
And when I spoke to he's an acupuncturist and homeopath, I had a chat with him and he said, well, what changes have you made in your diet? And I said, oh, I don't eat meat anymore. He said, I know you're taking B12, magnesium citrate. And I went, no. And he went, yeah, you probably need to do that. And in my head, I was like, oh, I just thought because I'd eaten meat for so long and then I still eat eggs. I just didn't think I needed much else. I got such a well-rounded diet because despite not eating the meat, I still eat loads of other stuff, fruit, veg, and I'll still eat crisps or whatever, I still do. But I make the choices about those things that I eat.
Right.
In my head, I was thinking,
in moderation.
More than enough. Yeah, exactly. I'm still thinking I'm getting more than enough. And he was like, no, you're going to need to give your body what it's had for so long. And it's true. If you've been giving your body something for so long and you just take it away, you need to find some way of supplementing that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you went cold turkey. Did you go to the doctor and figure out why you needed to take meat out, or was it just a decision that you said, I just want to take better care of my body and give my body a change? Or experience? You watch something on Netflix, because people do that.
See what it is, whatever it is.
There's a documentary on food or fish or something like that. And so for me, I'm a pescatarian, so I
That's
don't
what
eat
I am.
a lot of other meat other than like seafood.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I'm down to just eating seafood. Every now and then I'll have some like fried chicken wings, but usually that's like a once a month treat that I do for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like, if I watch that and I
Yeah.
and it freaks me out about seafood, well, I'm gonna stop eating salmon. I'm gonna stop eating. I can't watch it. So is that what happened? Did you watch like a eat this, not that type of thing on Netflix?
No, no, no.
Okay.
No, that's not what happened. I don't actually watch TV. I just got
Okay.
rid of my TV about a month ago. I just don't watch it. Um, I'm a podcaster. I like to listen to podcasts. But what actually happened was I grew up, despite being really sporty. So I did semi-professional gymnastics, and I
Mhm.
travelled loads. Was like in Russia, Germany. I was all over the States. I was in Europe competing,
Mhm.
and but I always had this. Right, we always just like described it as a dodgy tummy when I was a kid, and the
Mhm.
doctors would say, "Don't eat citrus fruits or citrus foods,
Mm.
after 7." This was like 30 odd years ago or
Mm.
whatever, and I
Okay.
was like, "Oh
Yeah.
right, okay." I was a kid, so anytime I then felt unwell, my mum and dad would be like, "Leanne, did you eat the citrus?" And I was like, "No, I didn't have anything." Okay, I promise, because I used to really like Granny Smith apples. They're
Okay.
really sharp and really acidic. And
Really?
oh yeah, well over here anyway they are.
Okay.
And so I grew up with this issue and
Mhm.
constantly would be drinking Diarrhelite, to rehydrate me after being, poorly. I just remember a lot of time in my childhood, my dad like rubbing my back as I was being sick and stuff.
Oh.
And this problem would flare up at certain stages. Now, it wasn't always clear, particularly when I was younger, because I wasn't charting anything like that. It wasn't always that clear when my tummy would flare up, but there were times when it'd be a lot worse than others. And when I qualified as a physio in my early 20s, I had a job that was quite far from home and sat in a lot of traffic driving to get there, even though I could take the train, the journey was equally as long and probably more expensive.
Mhm.
I was also dating, but probably not happily so. And I was also very, very busy. So on top of the work I was doing as a qualified physio, I was teaching kids gymnastics. Again, fingers in lots of pies.
Yeah.
And something was making me ill. I was just unwell. And it would leave me feeling lethargic. It would leave me feeling like I needed to dash to the toilet.
Oh
I
no.
just felt ill. So I
Okay.
had an Ayurvedic medicine consultation all through a mentor that I had that recommended it to me. So I invested in that. We started doing some diary work and charting things, which then removed things like white pasta and white bread and removed milk,
Mhm.
and removed certain parts of dairy. And I was
Mhm.
good for a few years, actually. I was probably good for about 6 or 7 years. And then I
Mhm.
had another like flare, big. Now the flares were always there, but every so often they're just larger than life, would
Mhm.
affect my hair, sweating overnight. And then I
Mhm.
think the second time when it happened, I was like, something's wrong. So then we cut out a few more things. And what they say with intolerances is when you cut out certain foods or certain groups of things that you would normally eat,
Mhm.
it actually increases the risk of you becoming intolerant to other things, which essentially is what was happening to me.
Let me see. Okay.
So then what happened was I had another bout a couple of years after that and went, no, this can't be. I'm eating well now. Spinach, like I'd have eggs and spinach for breakfast. I'd make omelets. It was filled with onions and peppers and mushrooms. Like I was like, I cannot get any better. And when I went to the Ayurvedic consultant at that point, we removed a whole load of stuff, and it left me going, what can I eat? Which then left me very heavy on proteins, fish and meat. And I
Mhm.
thought, I'm still ill. I'm still ill. So we went to where my family are from in the West Indies, and fish was heavily in season at that point. Like there was lobster everywhere. There was there was so much fish. And I just coincidentally shifted to fish and wasn't having any meat. It was light. It was loads of fresh vegetables, avocados the size of my head. Like food was fresh and from the land. And when I started eating that, I realized I'm feeling better. My original thought was I was
Mhm.
feeling better because of the sunshine. Like, oh, you're out, the weather's good. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
continued with the fish thing until Christmas. That was August, September until Christmas.
Mhm.
Brought back in the meats because, traditional West Indian household, lots of heavy meats. And then I was ill again by February. I was like,
So that's what got you to stop. I see.
and I
Okay.
cut it.
Okay.
I was like, it's for me. I did 3 months without it, felt so much better. Brought it in for 6 weeks max, and I'm feeling poorly again. The meat's got to go.
Hmm.
So that's
So,
what got me.
so do you see people who are like vegetarian or pescatarian or vegan and they come in and they feel like because they are eating better with their diet that they don't necessarily need to take care of, the rest of the body as well because the diet should kind of take care of it within itself. It's good enough.
I think that a lot of us know, or at least think we know, what we should be eating and drinking and stuff.
Mhm.
Most of us know we're not happy to, like, we don't want to track our calories, we don't want to weigh our food. So we pretty much eat what we want. Like, I think a lot of people do that.
Mhm.
Even those of us that exercise, oh, because I exercise, I can eat what I like.
Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't say to you that I see, vegetarians and vegans who are then like, but I shouldn't be feeling like this because I eat so well. But I do think that the that people who have made those transitions question things a little bit more. Like, oh, I wasn't always a vegetarian, I wasn't always vegan, and
Mhm.
now I've got this. So it sometimes comes up in conversation because, by like, I'm not, as a physiotherapist, it's not my job necessarily to ask people about their nutrition, but I'm conscious if you're not eating very well, then you're not going to help with your own recovery. So it's always a question that kind of comes up in terms of, what do you eat? Are you eating regular meals? If they've said that a bone's not been healing, tell me more. Like, what do you eat at breakfast? What do you eat at lunch? What do you have for dinner? What does that look like? Do you
Mhm.
drink enough water? Do you get enough sleep? So I'm asking those questions to build a picture about the people that I'm seeing. But I wouldn't say that the vegans or the vegetarians are any more conscious or less conscious than the meat eaters, for that matter.
Mm.
Um, I do have people that will talk about wanting to make transitions about their diet because they will feel that, oh, I've got this problem because I've got a bit too much weight on me. And maybe I've got too much weight on me because I eat this and I shouldn't. So there's a
Mm.
little bit of that going on. But I don't
That's
know how much of that is just because they're in the room and I'm asking them questions that are making them think.
that's true. You brought up getting enough sleep and getting enough rest. We are in this weird culture right now where people say, sleep is for suckers. You
Yeah.
sleep when you're dead. All this stuff. It's we're constantly like pushing our bodies and moving our bodies and working really hard and getting things done and burning out and like all of this stuff that we're doing. To me, when you're doing that, right, you're not getting enough sleep. And if you're not getting enough sleep because you're just on the go, on the go, on the go, you're not focused on necessarily working out all the time because you're focused on getting work done. You're not focused on eating properly, right? The 3 to 5 technically meals that you're supposed to have a day. And then you're all burned out. And then you're not even sleeping, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people, I know it sounds crazy, but nap is one of the most loving things that you can do for your body. Getting sleep is probably one of the most loving things that you can do for your body,
Yeah.
right? Especially because my neurologist said this to me, and I know my physical therapist told me, to rest, like sleep and rest kind of go hand in hand in order for things on the inside of your body to heal.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that in this day and age when people are not wanting to sleep and how that affects their body in a negative way?
Yeah. I mean, there are so many more entrepreneurs in our world today,
Mhm.
because opportunities, you can get them right across the world. You
Right.
couldn't before, the internet's opened up our
Right.
world. And like you said, people will say sleep is for suckers, or when you're sleeping, someone else is doing a deal. So there's this
That's
constant
a good
feeling
one.
about FOMO, like if you go to sleep, you're going to miss the biggest deal of your life.
Life,
To be
right?
honest, if you stay awake and you're tired, you're going to miss that deal anyway, or you have already missed it.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like it
right?
went past you when you were
Yeah.
sleeping with your eyes open. So I think, and I'm someone, I'm a 6 hour sleeper. So I sleep for 6 hours, but I know I said to you yesterday, I was so tired and I had a nap in the middle of the day. And I was like, I never nap in the middle of the day, but I was so tired and have been working so hard that I just went, you know what? I need that rest. I
Mm-hmm.
think that you have to know what works for you. And for some people, they're quite happy sprinting for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. They can work really, really hard. And then they know that they need to take a break. They need rest. Yeah. And maybe they've been having their 5 or 6 hours, and maybe that seemed like it's enough for that time.
Mm.
When they jump off of that sprint, the sleep now is 8 or 9 hours at a time. That's if they can even get back into that, because our bodies are so good, aren't they, in terms of like body clocking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've had 6 hours, my eyes are open, I can almost feel myself stirring, and I'm good to get up and get going. But
Mm-hmm.
without sleep, you don't replenish your body. You don't, well, as I was saying earlier, you don't reboot your system. And
Mm.
are you prepared to leave yourself malfunctioning,
Mm. Yeah.
because you haven't managed to get enough sleep. The lack of sleep, we know, even just through evidence base, has an impact on so many things. Your recovery,
Mm.
your brain's ability to process information, your attention span, like all of it. It's all a massive knock-on effect. And I think that for a lot of people, particularly those who will say, I train really well, I eat really well, how come I'm ill or injured or my immune system isn't good? And you'll find that there's a factor that they haven't addressed, and for a lot of people, it's often not enough sleep and they don't drink enough water.
Mm.
Yeah, because they're like hidden. They're hidden things. Who sees how much you sleep? Who tells you you should go to bed now? Who
Yeah.
does? Who's charting
Managing your water
the
intake.
amount of water that you're drinking?
Yeah.
If I'm with you, if I spend time with you and I see that you haven't eaten all day, I'm like, Kiona, did you have breakfast? Kiona, I didn't see you have lunch. Kiona, I didn't see you have dinner. But you're not there to say, Leanne, I didn't see you have 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that you can't catch up on sleep. Like people are, I'm just catching up. You can't catch up on it. It went. That was yesterday. Oh,
You
you
can't
know,
catch it. You can't
yeah,
catch up on it. It's
you
gone.
can't, you can't get that back. It's gone. So
Yeah.
I think people, again, a lot of this is all about mindset shifting. And I think for people who are, moving into entrepreneurial worlds, for people who are moving into management positions and positions that just demand more of them, I've been looking after a lady who's a trainee within a company, and the work demand is increasing by the day, and the stress of that is then meaning that she can't sleep. Well, of course you can't. Of course you can't, because you can't come down, right? And I think at that point, that's when you need to start saying, either to your workplace or for that, so many of us who don't draw boundaries. Like, there's a reason why your workplace kept saying to you, can you do this? And can you do that? And they know that you're not going to ever say no. Remember, they've asked you, can you? They didn't tell you you had to, but you kept doing it. So now we're just going to keep asking you. The phrase is, if you want something done, ask the busy person. The busy person's doing it all the time. They continue to do it, and they're that busy because they don't say no.
Wow. I never heard of that. That's so right, though.
Yeah, ask the busy person. If you want something done, ask the busy person.
Yeah. And most people that are so big on productivity, they're going to want to consistently have something to do so that they can consistently feel productive and keep going and going and going. And when you are not doing that, it's absolutely costly
Yeah.
on your mind, on your body, on everything, and you'll really feel it. Just because you don't feel it right now, because
Yeah.
you're not taking care of things right now, and because you're so used to doing it right now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to hit you later. And
Cool, yeah.
you are not going to be able, one thing that you cannot get time, you can't get back is time. You
Yeah.
can't buy it back,
Anything else? Yeah.
anything. And once you have ruined like your kidneys and your lungs, you're gonna either be put on a wait list to get somebody else's, waiting for somebody else to
Mm,
die, so
mm.
that or something to happen so that you can get somebody else's. But instead of doing that, take the time to love yourself enough at every age and every stage. And
Yeah.
at age and stage, really just say, as much as I want the Birkin bag, or as much as I want the
Yeah.
Jimmy Choos and all that other stuff, when I spend the $1,000 or whatever the amount of money is on this item, did I take care of everything else
Yeah.
as well? You know what I mean? But it's just it's no different than saying, do I want to go on vacation, or do I want to pay my rent or my
It's yeah.
mortgage or my
Yeah.
bills, right? And it's just like, well, as long as my mortgage and my rent and my bills or all that stuff is paid, now I can
Then I
afford
can.
the luxury of going on vacation, and really look at it the same way. I love myself so much that, yes, while I take care of all those other things, I have to love the only body that was gifted to me
Yeah.
to do all of the rest of the things that I love. I can't just want to look good on the outside
Yeah.
and not make sure that I am feeling good on
On
the
the
inside.
inside.
And I don't want to disrespect the older version of myself,
Yeah.
you know, by screwing me over at this age.
Because I didn't think I was gonna get old. I didn't think I was gonna live that long. I already like abused my body so badly that how am I gonna live that long? And there's a lot of that, in our society because of that fast-paced living. Um, we have youngsters taking drugs, we have youngsters abusing their bodies, we have
Mhm.
people that I'm saying youngsters, but people who have grown, even our age, who have
Mhm.
abused their bodies quite substantially, and then don't feel like they can turn it around because of some of the damage that they've already done. But I think that it's never too late to turn that around.
Yeah.
And I think that you can never know enough about your body. Sometimes I feel like our bodies are like, I don't know, whatever the latest iPhone is out at the moment. Our bodies have all these functions, but we are only using some of it,
Mm.
you know? And some of us need to have that extra, that workshop to tell us about that extra function that we didn't know about so we could put that in play, or to know what we can do to ourselves to boost certain functions. We drive around in cars and most of us just don't have a clue about how does that car even work. We know how to turn the key in the ignition and we know how to drive, but
Mhm.
if it says that the oil is low or a light's come up on my dashboard, I do, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think that so many of us have kind of treated our bodies in that way. But what we must remember is things like cars or mobile phones, they're material things. When things go wrong on them, they can be replaced. Hey, listen, you can get a refurbished phone, yeah? You can't get a refurbished body, you know? You can't buy a second-hand body. And so, and there is no, other than, pain potentially being a measure or the niggle alarming your body, we don't have a dashboard that shows up with a flashing light saying, there's something wrong with your kidney here, or there's something wrong with your liver here, or there's something wrong with your chest. Go and get it seen to. So we must pay a little bit more attention to our body, like you said, age and stage. And in my head, I'm thinking we must take the time to take the time. That's what's going on in my, that's what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Um, and I say it's never too late. If you're in agony and you're struggling to function, then maybe it is a bit too late. But for anyone who's listening to this podcast, this is your wake-up call, and you're probably here needing to hear this, because I firmly believe that you get your message about things when you need to hear it for yourself, and draw it, like the ability to be able to hear the message and then action on it at that moment in time without letting it just drift off is quite powerful. And I think there's some of that work that's in that book, The Alchemist.
Yeah.
Talking about omens. Interestingly, that book doesn't talk about good and bad omens. It just talks about omens, you know, in terms of things that come up and then make you go, oh, I really should do this, or I should do that. And I think for your audience who's listening to this, if you haven't checked yourself, if you haven't checked your health, this is your moment to go and book that GP appointment, that physical therapist appointment, that counseling session, that psychotherapy session that you've been thinking you were going to do. This is your moment to get on it.
That is the best way to end the podcast. We are in
the mic moment
right there. On that note, right there, mic drop. So, like Leanne said, use this as a wake-up call, right? And don't see taking care of your body and your health and your wellness as a burden. Really, taking care of yourself is an act of self-love, and you cannot wait for somebody else to love you and love your body before you love you enough to love on your body, right? So life matters. Love yourself first enough to take care of you. Leanne, where can they find you?
They can find me on all social media platforms. Distinct Physiotherapy on Facebook, but it's Distinct Physio on Twitter, Insta. They can get me on LinkedIn as Leanne Antoine. I am all over. My company name is Distinct Physiotherapy. I'm distinct, and so are you. That's my motto.
Absolutely. And she'll also, I'll have the link of all her information down below and on the website. So you guys, please check her out. If you are in her area in the UK, reach out. She's available, and she is like the absolute best. You've heard her first. So, okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And remember, take care of yourself. Life matters. Bye.
Bye.